Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about hash, which are also known as dictionaries, right? So hashes are one of those common structures that you're going to see all over web application development. And they take the form of this in Ruby. You open a curly brace, okay? And then you have these key value pairs within them, separated by commas, and then you close the curly brace to signify the end of the hash. So you can start an empty hash simply by saying my hash equals just two open curly braces. All right, and then within it you fill in the key value pair. So in this example, you have the key as A and the value associated with that key is 1. Then key of B, value is 2, and so on and so forth. Here is another hash, which is my details equals, you have name defined as Masroor, fav color you have defined with the value of red. All right, and then I have this line over here that says how to access the value associated with a key. For example, if I wanted to know the value of my fav color, all I need to do is reference my hash, and within square brackets and within quotes, I can reference the key. This will give me the value. So let's take a look. I'm gonna get rid of these two lines. And of course, if I want this to show, I have to print this. So I'll say P, and then let's run this. Okay, Ruby playground.rb. Check it out. It gives me red, which is my fav color. All right. Now, if I wanted to get a value associated with my sample hash, for example, the value associated with B, which is 2, let's see how we do that. I can do the same thing. Instead of printing out my details, I'll say sample hash and then B. And in case you're wondering what happened to my theme, how it went from light to dark, I changed my settings in Atom. I was playing around with themes, and you can go to preferences and then set up your theme over here, choose a theme. I went to OneDark for syntax and UI theme, and then I also installed a package called Emmet, which helps in HTML development. But anyway, wanted to show you that real quick before we move on. So let's run this now. There you go, 2. Okay, so let's look at some more useful methods that we can use with hashes. So I'm going to copy this so I have it. Command C. All right, and then hop on IRB. Okay, there's my hash. So if I say sample hash, there you go. I have my key value pairs. Now notice my value here, they're integers. Now one thing I want to introduce you to at this time, you see my keys here are strings. Okay, A is a string, B is a string, C is a string, and you'll see strings pretty much common everywhere when you're talking about key value pairs like this. But Rails gives you this other thing called a symbol. So I can do another hash equals, and then I can say A:1, B:2, C:3. Okay, here Rails by default will take A and turn it into a symbol. It's not going to be a string. And there's a common misconception that a symbol is a mini string, okay, or a lightweight string, but that's not the case. A symbol, you can think of symbols more as identity. So like something that you wouldn't necessarily think of changing. So in Rails, and you can see how that flows nicely into Rails, because you can think of attributes and how would you reference those attributes. For example, the column of a database, which could be username. That's not something that you would change easily. So in Rails, symbols are all over the place, and you have hash structures dealing with them. So that's something to keep in mind. So if I run this, you see how this syntax is slightly different than this syntax. I could have defined this as this, but I chose to do it this way because this is very common. But automatically, by me defining it this way, Ruby was smart enough to know that I wanted A, B, and C to be symbols. You see, there are no quotes around them, and you see how they have this colon before them. That's a symbol, all right? So you'll see things like username or session or user ID, things like this all over the place in Rails. So those are all symbols. But you would access items the same way. You can say another hash and then A. You see it gives me 1. Okay, but instead of the quotes, I use this colon. All right. So I briefly spoke about how these are keys and these are values. Now, what if I wanted to shortcut my way into getting the keys only from this hash or any hash? I can do this, sample hash dot keys. You see how it returns only the keys in that hash. So along those lines, I think you've guessed, I can do sample hash dot values, and it gives me an array of the values from my hash. I can do something better. Whoops. I'm inside IRB, so I have to do Control L. If I wanted to loop through, I can use the same iterator that I introduced you to in the last video with arrays. I can do sample hash dot each do. And since hash or dictionaries have key value pairs, instead of just grabbing one variable, you need to grab both the key and the value. So I'm going to say key value to keep this simple. So sample hash dot each do key value. The class for key is, just to make things interesting, key.class. And the value is pound open curly brace value.class. Okay, and then I forgot my closing curly brace. All right. And then, of course, this is a block. I started with do, so I have to end it. Say end. Okay. Check it out. The class for key is string and the value is integer. It went through all of them, printed it out, and there is my hash. All right. Now let me quickly copy this method. Command C over here. And then this, Command C. And then end. Okay. Now instead of running it on sample hash, if I run this on my details, if I save that, and then I'm going to print my details. Let's run this. I'm going to exit out. You see the class for key is string and the value is string. Now what if I change these to symbols? So instead of name, I can say colon name. And then fav color, I'll say colon fav color. Okay, save that. If I run this now, the class for key is symbol and the value is string. All right, so I wanted to show you the difference, and I also wanted you to keep this in mind. Symbols will come into play a lot. All right, okay, great. Clearing that up, let me hop back on to IRB, and I have a hash over here. Let's see. Nope, I don't. So I'm going to copy paste a hash real quick. Okay, here we go. My hash. So I'm saying A1, B2, C3, D4. Okay, what if I wanted to add an element to this hash? And the ordering is not important to me. All I need to do is specify a key. So I'll say my hash, give it a key. Let's say I want to add E. So I'll say E equals, and let's see, let me give it a name, Masroor. Okay, now if I do my hash, check it out, Masroor's been added. What if I wanted to change a value? Let's say I want to change the value of C. I can say my hash, and then C equals Ruby. All right, so if I do my hash, check it out, now C's value is changed. Great. And you saw that we ran this iterator to run through the hash. You can do the same thing when something is a one-liner for the expression. You can do the same thing that we did with arrays, which is to do it in one line. Let's see what that would look like. Over here, it would look something like this. My hash dot each, and then put the block, and within it, remember, since this is key value pair, I'm going to say some key and then some value. And then let's say puts the key is pound open curly brace, some key close curly brace, and the value is pound open curly brace, some value close curly brace, close quote. Okay, so you see how we did this in one line. Let's see if it works. Check it out. The key is A and the value is 1, key is B, value is 2. So you see how we can iterate through it. Now, I can also use conditionals here. Remember, we used the select method. So over here, let's say we want to display items only if the value is a string. How do we do that? I can do something like this. My hash dot select, and then start the block. And then key value, instead of writing some key, some value, I'm simply going to say KV. Okay. And then V dot is a, within parentheses, I'll say string. I think that's how this works. Nope, it doesn't. So what did I do wrong? Ruby, always helpful. It says, did you mean is a? Yep, I think that's what I meant. So let's try this. Is a, and then string. Okay, I made another mistake. What does this one say? Type error, class or module required. So I think this does not require this. Let's see. There you go. Okay, took 3 attempts, but we got it right. I'm kind of coding on the fly, so that's why you're seeing me make errors here. Anyway, you see it returns the 2 items from my hash, which have values that are string. And I was able to do this simply by writing this one line of code. All right. Now, what if I wanted to delete these values if they were strings? Let's say I was trying to clean up my hash, and I know I have strings, numbers, all of this, and all I'm interested in are numbers. How would I do that? I can say my hash dot each, and then KV for key value within pipes. I can say my hash dot delete K, which is the key, if V, which is the value, dot is underscore a string. And this is something that's important when you're working with hash structures, okay? That is, in order to delete a value, you don't really need to do anything with the value. You can simply remove the key. Okay, so then there's no way to access the value. So the key value pair disappears from the hash. Something to keep in mind. So in this case, we're going to iterate through my hash, which is this one, and then we're simply going to remove the key. So here you go, delete K, if V, which is my value, is a string. So let's see if that works. Okay, I made the same mistake again. This is great. Is a. There you go. Okay, so now if I do my hash, the strings are gone. Perfect. And I'm going to exit out of IRB. Now that's a decent amount we've covered in this video in terms of introduction to hashes. And we will work with hash structures quite a lot. And in fact, we have a project coming up that's going to work with a loop and hash structures and an array, just to complicate things, all right? So you kind of are bombarded with this stuff. But the thinking behind that is if you practice with that, and if you do something that's a little more on the complex side, it will solidify your understanding of hash, array, and working with these type of data structures, which are so common and used all over the place in application development and web application development as well. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.